And welcome to the road. So today I'm joined by ReTr00, and most of you might not know how he looks, but you definitely have heard his voice before. And he is currently the coach of Ignite Esports, a British CSGO organization, as well as a commentator for various Pinnacle Cups and Relog Media and so forth. I am Dallas qualifiers, basically tier 2s, and then he's one of the hosts of tier 2 talks. So let's get straight into it, mate. So you are basically, you have so much experience when it comes to casting in tier 2, and you're rather young. So can you please tell me, like, how did you get into casting, and why is it that you chose casting instead of like being a player?
If I'm honest with you, it was actually a joke to begin with. So my whole career actually stemmed from a bit of a joke and a laugh. I remember sitting down with some friends and we were just saying like, oh, do you know how cool it would be if we could like play Counter-Strike and whatever. And over time, I started to realize that the people that I were playing with, actually one of my teammates in my current team, I played with when I started to think about like the different routes I can take in esports. So I jokingly ran up the stream. I like casted. I think it was like an event. It was like a local UK event, and it was like a £50 prize, but it was like horrific stuff. And they were like, "Hey, we just want you to like, stream the game, have some fun with it," and I did. And then I got scouted for a couple of little things here and there. And then I just put my name out there, and I said I wanted to do ESEA Open, and I think I started. I want to say 7-8 seasons ago. I think it's like a year and a little bit now for ESEA casting, and well, I'm obviously working. What it was, MDL, now ESL Challenger League. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But it all started as a joke, man. It all started as a joke, whipping up a stream and yeah, just rolling with it and seeing what happened.
So this joke suddenly became like a career that you wanted to chase. So how is that?
I think it happened quite quickly with people offering to pay me money. There's a lot of history behind the name of Vortex Entertainment, so if anyone knows at home, then fair enough. But long story short, the rates weren't amazing, but it gave you really good connections, and I think a lot of people respected Vortex, not as a company that is going to pay well or whatever. It was a company to put yourself on the map, and so I did my first 4 or 5 events through Vortex Entertainment. And from there, I think I got the call up. The same guy that owned Vortex also worked at Grid, and Grid were also in charge of sorting talent out for the Relog Media events, all of the Spring Sweet Springs, Snow Sweet Snows, all of that. And I got the call up there very quickly. In fact, I think it was like a week turnaround from the moment I got the call up to my first game. And then I just started seeing the money, and obviously it isn't a risk that I was willing to take at the time. I was still in school. I was actually the last year of my school, so I was doing what's A levels in this country. I guess like the final exams when you're 18 was basically what I was going for. And I thought at the end of it, do you know what? If I'm gonna be doing this, I've got to make sure I can do it full time. And so me and my parents agreed that in the first year, if I could make X amount of money and prove that it could be a job, then I'll stick with it. And so far, so good. And I guess the rest is history, right? I didn't do well in my exams, but I'm in a place that I love. Esports has always been something I enjoy, so I'm happy to be here.
Yeah,
I'm blessed.
yeah, exactly. Like you are also quite fortunate because you've got these offers. So, like, how come you think that you got all of these offers like so fast? Because there's often we see a lot of talent who's not getting recognized that don't get these offers that you've gotten. Like, and you got them so soon after like your first events and your first like casts of just doing ESEA Open. Like anyone can do it. So how come you think that you got these opportunities that other people might not get?
I think it's easy to say now, but I think in hindsight, a lot of casters will agree that you've got to just get your name out there. As soon as you can, just make a show reel, just email people, just do this, do that, and just try and post yourself at as many places as possible, and basically build a brand. So my Twitter, admittedly, I've done a few giveaways in the past, so it's not all legitimate followers, but I reckon probably about 50% of my followers are people that have watched Counter-Strike and seen me, or people that I know from casting that are in certain teams and whatever. So the connections that I made purely were just based on me putting my name out there, going, do you know what? I want to cast. I want to do this. and I've just emailed people, I've sent messages. It's, you know, the worst thing you're going to hear is no, right? So that was my goal, is that if I send an email out to, you know, this person, and if I ask another caster for this contact or whatever, and basically just put my name out there and hope at one point or another someone's going to say yes. And I guess for me, it was very fortunate to get the contact with ReTr00 so early, and that was just as they announced the fact that they were going to do the $1.2 million circuit for the Springs, the Home Sweet Home series, right before they announced the LAN. And so I was in a really fortunate position where I could take the lower end of the work, prove myself, build my portfolio up, and then my first proper duo was with Scriv, Scrivcast on Twitter. He's a really nice guy, and we just ran with it. We did a lot of Elisa work together. We did a lot of the Reload Media playoffs. We've got a couple of dates at Repub League, and from there, my connections are built to the Tier 2 scene. And obviously, I'm super thankful to Scriv, who has probably given me a lot of the connections that I have today, but he's also the reason how I got into ESL alongside Dan Chan. And I guess overall, the contacts that I got were partly my own, but I've got to thank Scriv and Dan Chan for the opportunities as well that they gave me when I worked with them both for ESL products.
Yeah. Okay. So, but there's a lot to unpack here. So, like, the first part is like the reaching out to people, because like you send emails out, you say you build your Twitter, but then again, like, how do you know what people to email, and what if your Twitter is not big enough to get these messages out, and you don't just like yell out in an echo chamber and no one responds, you know? Like what is it you think that made you like that the fortunate, like why is it that people like responded to you? Like, what do you think the reason would be?
I reckon it's a lot to do with my, I guess my following before my first big events were all the UKCS players. I could list you a lot of the names of people that retweeted my first ever show reel. I think my first ever show reel is still on YouTube. I'll double check while I'm talking about this. But I just basically said, like, I tweeted myself. I was like, please hire me, basically. Like, let's talk Counter-Strike, and let's have a good one. And then a lot of people watched it. It started to gain a little bit of traction. Probably a lot of people put name to face a little bit more. And then basically, I think from the show reel, and then obviously emailing people the show reel itself, I think the market for me was just showing people, I guess, what I have and what I can do. I said in my show reel, I've said in both of them, my last year's one and this year's, that I'm more than happy to do hosting and creating flexibility and basically saying, I can do this, I can do that, I can do this. Here's me doing it. I think that was a really big help. And so for the people noticing me, the initial people that retweeted it, I guess, kind of gained traction. And I don't know how the Twitter algorithm works exactly, but maybe someone saw it or someone at ESL. I remember actually replying to Joe Miller saying, like, hi, I made a special video. It took me like a day solid editing, but I basically made a video directed at him saying, basically, hire me. And I think, 2-3 months after, I got a message from someone saying, we'd like you on for ESL Challenger League. So I guess the snowball effect all came from just knowing your local scene and getting appreciation from people at a more local area.
Okay, but what about when you reach out to people? Like, was there some kind of anxiety because you were, you're messaging out to a lot of people, and you're hoping for a response, and yes, you say like the worst thing you can get is a no, but like sometimes that no can be scary for people, right? Like if let's say I should go out and try and become a caster tomorrow, like I might have some kind of anxiety of what like people would respond to me when I message them out, and it's like, again, it comes kind of out of the blue, So what do you think?
If I'm honest, the anxiety that you get when emailing these people is nothing compared to what you get on a broadcast. I think when you think about things, you're emailing. Even if it is just a unanimous email, like I didn't exactly email like an ESL, like hub that then it gets directed onward. I got a specific email, but even if I was to email that and then it was passed through a chain of people, say 5-6 people read the email, right? As you say, the worst thing you can get is a no. But for me, the anxiety would definitely be more on the broadcast when it's to tens, if not hundreds of thousands of people. So sure, there's anxiety thinking, you know, if I email too early, if my showreel isn't good enough, I'm going to get a no, and then they're going to think less of me. And obviously these thoughts are always going to happen. But I think in this job, you have to be very confident. You have to be very sure in yourself that you are going to succeed. You are going to be that person to make it to the top. You're going to be the next, you know, Anders Semler. You're going to be the next, you know, I guess Machine Sponge right now, maybe a Scrawny Launders. The goal for you isn't to stop at tier 2. The goal for you isn't to stop when you feel happy. Your goal is the top. That's what everyone's here for, right? Is to be on a major, to be on a, you know, in a Cologne Grand Final or something like that. So sure, the anxiety might be there in getting the word no, but actually, if you wanna paint the greater picture, the no there is going to be nothing compared to the atmosphere that you're going to feel at a LAN or something like that. So for me, I'm yet to experience what it's like casting a Counter-Strike LAN with an audience. Right, I've done 2 LANs now. One wasn't even Counter-Strike, but both were studio basically events and not really a crowd or an audience of people. So yeah, it was a bit difficult, but yeah, the worst you can get is no, right? And so if you do get anxiety, and if people are obviously like trying to become a caster and feel a bit nervous about emailing these people, then the bit of advice I would give is just think of the positives, right? If they say no and they give you a way maybe back into well, the reason why we don't think you're ready is because of this and that, then it's things to work on, and working on yourself and disciplining yourself to watch back demos and stuff is a great way to improve. And the more you believe in yourself, the less anxiety you'll have.
Okay, so basically be confident in your craft, and then everything will work out, basically.
Yeah, it's I mean, it works for everyone, right? If you look at the casters, so we have a LAN called Epic LAN. The UK players will know this. A long time ago, Machine and Pansy were casting Epic LANs, right? And that's like the second biggest UK LAN event. We don't get many, but they had to start somewhere. So everyone starts somewhere. Everyone has to make an email. Everyone has to get a contact. So, you know, if you're at home watching, what's stopping you from just going out there and doing a couple of games, making a showreel and hoping to get into the space?
Yeah, something I think is not that common. You might correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think it's that common for casters to actually make showreels. And then because I think that's like a piece of content that really shows like your best performance, which is easy to send out to people and attach to the different mails and the different contacts you have for different people. And also it can create this like following and this like these people who actually know who you are based on that showreel. But that's not a thing I see a lot from a lot of different casters, especially from like the Danish scene where I'm like mainly a part of. There's like no real like showreels there. It's more like, hey, I'm casting this, watch me live, or good luck knowing how good I am, basically. Or if you know my name, right?
Yeah, I think for a showreel, for me personally, my first one was putting name to face. That's something that a lot of people will struggle with, is that when you hear a clip of audio, when you're watching a stream, and for example, if you're to close your eyes, a lot of people in the tier 2 space will struggle with making sure that when people see your face, they know who you are and they know what you sound like, right? So for me, a good visual audio task, and for maybe casters at home watching as well, some might agree, is that if you're to shut your eyes and listen to a broadcast, especially at the top, you know exactly who they are because you've heard their voice, but more importantly, you've seen their face. And so not only is a showreel good to show your highlights and what you're capable of, the showreel, in my opinion, is actually better off with going, this is what I look like, this is what I sound like, and this is what I do when I do my job. And a lot of people then create that name to face, and then when they start seeing your highlights, you know, in, I don't know, like a Vladapard video, if you know, people watch that, or if people want to sit down and watch, you know, a certain event, or they watch a VOD because they want to watch a team, and then they hear your voice, and they're like, oh, I know this person, I know what he looks like, then you can create that connection, right? And for people watching at home specifically, the viewers of a broadcast, that's actually the most important thing, is recognizing who you're listening to and what the person looks like that you are listening to.
Okay, so like, but then now you emphasize a lot on like the face, and people should know like what you look like. Like, why is that so important, do you believe?
At some point, if you're going to make it to the top, then people are going to know what you're going to look like, right? So if you come into the casting space thinking, I don't know if I want to show my face, I'm not confident in the way I look, then you're never going to get somewhere, in my opinion. At some point or another, you're going to have to turn a camera on. You're going to have to put a green screen down. You're going to have to do an interview. You're going to have to do this, that, and the other. Creating that name to face, for me, is super important for a multitude of reasons. I think primarily it's to create a human connection, right? We're not just a voice behind a screen. We're a person, and we're trying to create a story. We're trying to deliver a product that you can follow. And so just creating something as simple as that in the back of your mind, although you're not thinking of it primarily, it's, you know what, I know what this person looks like. You know, they seem approachable, they seem nice, they seem friendly, and whatever it may be, it's creating, I don't know, a portfolio for yourself, the way you look. But more importantly, I think it's fun to get your face out there. When you do media, as I said, you can't hide from it. You know, whether it's an interview like this, whether you're on a LAN finals, for me, it's just, you've just got to put your face out there. And if you're not willing to do that, then it's going to be a little bit problematic at some point or another.
But another thing is, like, with like what you have to do, the job, right, does not require you to show your face. So why is it that it is so important? Like, you are required to make an entertaining product, yes. You're required to commentate on the game, and during the game, people don't see your face. It's only like between the games, and maybe if you purely do commentating, it's like basically we mostly see them if you look at the bigger broadcasts. Like, you see it when the analyst desks goes over to the casters, and then you maybe see their face fast, like real quick, but then you only hear the voices, right? So there is an argument to be made. Like, why is it like the like knowing your face, even though you know it's a human connection, right? But there are some, like, for the job itself, it's not really like it's that, like, you don't gain much by showing your face rather than being a talented caster.
You're right. I think that's actually a really good point to be made, is that at some point or another, actually your face is only going to be shown for a split second somewhere, someplace. But let's take, I don't know, the most recent Blast event for an example, the LAN finals that we had in Copenhagen, right?
Yeah.
And we had casters that were on probably 2 minutes, just had a little conversation, then went into the game. The 2 minutes is the most important thing for a caster, I feel like, to build their brand. Is, do you know what? Let's take Scrawny and Launders, for example. When Scrawny talks to Launders or Launders talks to Scrawny, that conversation that they're having, casting is more than just, I'm going to talk and then you're going to talk. It's about building like friendships, connections. At the end of the day, you've got to be very in sync, and it all boils down to the viewer seeing that, right? And so if two casters in the 2 minutes look engaged and they sound engaged, it really helps bring a product together, I feel like. And you know, like, the click that happens with some people is faster than others. And I do agree. I think that the time that casters get on a camera is very minimal compared to what we see on an analyst desk or an interviewer or anything like that. But the whole brand of an analyst is not only being analytical, but being very presentable on a broadcast. So if a caster only gets 2 minutes worth of time, but an analyst gets 20, then you've got to do the same impact with your voice, your presentation, everything, but in less time. So you've got to make sure that those 2 minutes are the best 2 minutes of your life. And so the little conversation you have before the game, when you talk about the veto and you're really trying to hype things up and put things into perspective and give the basis of a storyline, then those 2 minutes when they can see you is the most important 2 minutes of the broadcast, because that's the best bit that you can build up to the game. And then whatever happens in the game is obviously all reactional to how you want to cast and whatever like that.
Okay, so let's go in, like, talk a bit about in-game, because there are some things that I'm quite curious about. Because
Sure.
again, let's diverge the different tiers, right? So when you see top talent, and especially during eco rounds, right, you see them like fill in, like basically talk about almost anything except of Counter-Strike. But
Yes.
then in the important rounds, they really know how to build it up and make it like super exciting and know the stakes of that round. But like, what effect do you think like that fill round has for the entirety of the match?
I'm pretty sure, at least for me as well, I will do the same happily. It's simply because we want to. as I said earlier, we're not just people that shout at pixels, right? We are trying to make a connection with the audience. So, for example, the most recent off round I had where it was in eco, I think I talked about like what did I talk about? It was something like really stupid and random. It was like I think it was I think I mentioned the word payload in a round, right? And just saying like they keep pushing the payload forward, just like edging back into the game. And my co-commentator Yumi at the time was like, "Oh, payload? What? You're an Overwatch player?" And so we just went on a little tangent, and I was like, "Nah, I hate that game. You know, like I don't like that game at all." And so the connection that you have in that eco round is to share your personal thoughts and make that connection with the viewer at home. Because if it's just Counter-Strike, then sure, it's probably good to a product that you only want to watch the Counter-Strike, but to a certain level, when you listen to someone, you can't just listen to 3 hours of Counter-Strike on and on and on and on. Obviously, it's the whole point of watching Counter-Strike is that you are watching the game, and that's what you commit to when watching a stream. But these commentators having their little off rounds, a joke here and there, just having a giggle and having a good time, it's all part of the broadcast, because at the end of the day, whether it's, you know, like a spam in the chat or anything like that, or, you know, just people having a good time at home listening and laughing along, the grand scheme of things is that connection is the most important one, because you're going to want to stick around and listen to more, kind of like a podcast, right? Where if you bring up an interesting story, and if a podcast keeps bringing up these interesting stories, then you're going to go back and listen to them. And that's the very same thing with a caster, but on a much smaller and time constrained scale, is that the 30-40 seconds that you have in an eco round, you know, let's make a joke, let's make a story, so the viewer listens and goes, I'm engaged, I want to listen to more. Obviously I'm here for the Counter-Strike, but I will absolutely stay to hear these like little gimmicky things that these casters do. So I think it's actually one of the more important things to do, is to give a little bit of a breather, but also to give everyone, you know, a bit of a laugh or a joke, or, you know, just something outside of Counter-Strike, just to keep your mind in tune.
Yeah, but also like what you see a lot in both like upcoming casters, but also like fairly like less experienced casters, is like they will completely neglect that point and only focus on the Counter-Strike. And like when you neglect that point, right, it just misses, like it misses some flavor, some color for the entirety of the entertainment product, right? So when it comes to these like I don't want to call them fill rounds, but it's basically like what they are. But again, like that, can you see it as like your moment of distinguishing yourself from other casters, where like your stories can maybe be a bit funny, maybe a bit edgy, maybe innocent, you know? I don't know how you want to present that story, right? But like, is it like a way for you to like make yourself unique, instead, like one of the factors that maybe at least of making yourself unique in like, yeah, compared to other casters?
I would say so. I think that there's a real chance for you to make that connection, right? And say you tell like one of the funniest stories, and you know, everyone's in hysterics, then everyone's going to remember that, right? And everyone's going to go, oh yeah, do you remember like that game, like that commentator made that funny joke or whatever. You're right, it's very hard to do in a solo cast, I will admit to that. So if there's people listening, and obviously you're watching, and they're, you know, doing ECA open games on themselves, or main games or advanced games, whatever it may be, it's hard for them to do it. I think it's a lot easier to do it in a duo. But the time that you do get, the downtime that you can share a story, whether that's, you know, as we say on these eco versus buy rounds, where you know it's going to be 5 Glocks running somewhere, they're not going to win the round, then, you know, you can have a little bit of a joke and a laugh. And I think, as you said, casters aren't just there to shout, they're there to be entertainers and make the broadcast entertaining. That's the whole point. And so you're not going to hire someone that doesn't. And then these jokes make things just a little more entertaining and a little easier, I feel like, for the people to watch at home. So yeah, I would say it's actually a pretty important thing.
Yeah, okay, because it's often something that's overseen when you see casters and when you talk about the game, and like especially like both Scrawny and Londres and Machine and Sponge are extremely good at just, you know, taking out the tempo of the game, getting the colors in, basically, as I would call it, like the fill rounds, make it exciting, make it interesting, and always have like the viewer's attention in mind, so they don't like fall back in the couch and just sit there and mindlessly watch, but they are actually actively trying to make them engage in it, like engage in the match. And that works both for inland audiences, because I was live at the blast in Copenhagen, like we talked about. So there was a lot of that going on, and you could feel it like in the entire audience, but also when you're at home, even when you watch like Relog Media, or if you watch ESL Pro League groups online, there are some aspects that make it so much more entertaining when you have some of these factors in mind.
Yeah, I think actually it's a super important thing to have in a broadcast. I wouldn't say the most important thing. In fact, I think everything in casting is there because it is important. The fundamentals are that when you get into this industry and when you want to put yourself on an analyst desk, or if you want to put yourself in front of the camera as a caster or whatever it may be, is okay, sure, skill is the most important thing, but making the broadcast entertaining is what brings in the numbers and what brings in a good stream, right? So Scrawny and Launders, I'm going to take them as an example because I personally think they are one of the best, top two duos, if not the best. I would actually create that debate because they're very entertaining and fun. And I think when you look at Machine and Sponge, sure, they've been doing it a very long time and they are legends to the casting scene. And I absolutely love listening to them cast. When there's a stream on, there's no need to mute a stream when they're around. And the same for Scrawny and Launders. But for me, it's, them having a joke and a laugh and just enjoying themselves. That relatability for me is like the most important thing in a broadcast. Is if I can sit down, listen and laugh along, then I'm going to tune into a broadcast. And from a hiring perspective, from a TO's perspective, is a Scrawny and a Launders or a Machine and a Sponge is really good because they keep the numbers going. People want to listen. People want to join. And not only that, those numbers equate to sponsorships. They equate to money, basically. And so that's why not only is it good to be good, but it's good to be entertaining because that also keeps the numbers. A good caster can do really well, but a great caster is someone that does well in their craft, but also can keep the viewer engaged.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, I want to take this point and these factors, like these points we just talked about, I want to take it back to your casting and the tier 2 scene, because what you see very often, very, very often, is in the tier 2 scene, you have, like, let's say a Snow Sweet Snow Cup, and maybe there's like 1,500 people watching, but that maybe 80 or 90% of the people watching are gamblers who try to earn money from it. So then you can then let me ask you this: like, gamblers don't care about the entertainment of the product; they only care if they win or lose money. So how come some of these points are important when you cast these online games where gamblers are the majority of the viewers?
It's an interesting point that you bring up, because you are dead right that a lot of the viewership, especially in tier 2, is people that gamble. And obviously, for those that will know, it's called the Pinnacle Winter Series or whatever, right? So the headline sponsor is a gambling site. So we totally get that. When we head into a game, we know that the connection is majoritively gambling. To keep the viewer engaged, though, someone that wants to watch a broadcast, admittedly, okay, sure, a gambler is there to see if they win their bet or lose their bet, but they will stick around if it's a good broadcast, and it's the same at any level, is that if you do well in your cast, people will want to listen. People won't watch the streams on mute and just sit there mindlessly watching the rounds, or sit on the gambling site and watch the live feed, which is obviously quicker than what we put out. They will want to watch the stream and be involved in the moment and feel the hype that we feel, and feel the lows, feel the happiness, feel the sadness, because it's an emotional thing, right? And so to make that connection, even when people are so stern and only want money out of these games and will only watch them because they've bet on them, nothing's stopping that viewer sticking around if you put on a good show. And so for me, I don't even consider that 90% of the people that watch my stream or watch my cast are people that gamble. I consider them all as viewers, and I want to see that number from the start to the end go up and not down. And not that numbers is much of a motivation to me. I couldn't care less if I'm broadcasting to 10 or tens of thousands. I'm still going to put on the same product. But if I can increase the viewership, and if I can keep people engaged, and if I can see people having fun in the chat through the VOD or whatever, then I know I've done my job. Because as you said, the people that are so cold-hearted to only watch a stream to gamble or to win money, if they're sticking around, then I've convinced this person that the only connection is money, has now invested their feeling and their time into watching the game. And so for me, that's also something that a lot of people look for.
Ah, yeah, that's actually a really good point. Another thing that I was thinking about is it also helps you like better your craft, even if there is like no people engaging and there are 1,500 gamblers sitting in the chat and just watching it on mute, right?
Yeah.
But another point I wanted to try and ask you is, you say that viewers don't matter, and the viewing numbers don't matter for whoever you cast to. Was it also that in the beginning, when you started casting the ECA Open, did you care about the viewers then? Because now you've tried to have all these viewers, and you have felt the difference between having none and having a lot, right? And have a lot watch the cast that you do. But in the beginning, like, was viewers some driving factor for you to measure your success?
I would say so, yeah. At the beginning, again, it was finding my feet. I didn't really have many connections in casting. The closest person I knew who started at the same time as me is Kremer, who now does, literally just now got announced for Polaris, which is the VRL, the Valorant League for Western Europe, so, or Northern Europe, excuse me. So, sure, I think at the beginning I was pretty clueless on what is good and what is not. I just thought numbers meant everything, and in the grand scheme of things, it doesn't. Because if I was to whip up my stream right now and cast an advanced game, as you said, and as everyone will know at home, at some place somewhere on some dodgy Russian gambling site or whatever it may be, is that game will probably be broadcasted, and that game will be a line or a bet that you can place. So, sure, the numbers are always going to be influenced. At the beginning, I thought, oh, man, I have like 25 viewers. This is so cool. Like, I'm clearly doing something right if people stick around. But in the grand scheme of things, okay, sure, numbers slightly do motivate me when it comes to if I see huge drops, then what am I doing wrong? Why aren't people staying around? But at the beginning, I made the mistake in thinking it meant everything, because it doesn't. And whoever was going to watch the streams and whoever asked me to cast this game, if they kept coming back and saying, yo, we enjoyed that, can you do this one, can you do that one, then actually you must be doing something right. If the person that is going to be your harshest critique and think they can go elsewhere and get a better caster wants to keep hiring you, then you're going to be doing something right. And so I would say consistency in work is actually more valuable than viewers. And so again, another tip for anyone watching at home is really don't care about the numbers unless it's a serious concern, because at the end of the day, if the person that's hiring you keeps hiring you, then you know you're clearly doing something right. So
what do you mean with a serious concern?
I would say it's maybe not a serious concern in terms of like, should I be in this job, but say for example you start a stream with 10,000 viewers and by the end of it you have like 2,000 or 3,000, then your mind will automatically think, what have I done in this cast to lose so many viewers? And maybe it isn't because of you. Maybe, I don't know, you're casting a ESEA advanced game and then all of a sudden ESL's just gone live with a tier 1 game. A lot of people are going to flock to that. So then that isn't even a concern either. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to consider that as a problem. But if you're sort of the mainstream, if you've got the big HLTV game or whatever and the viewer count drops, then you're always going to think, okay, shoot, what's just happened? Like my viewer count or the amount of people that watch the stream is lower than I thought. Then, maybe you're going to watch back that VOD and go, maybe I can pick up in here and there. And then that's all part of improving. So actually, I don't think losing viewers is a bad thing. I don't even have a Twitch chat open anymore. I hate reading Twitch chat. I used to do it. It's a terrible habit. I'll always try and hide the numbers as well. But when I'm watching an ESL game or when I'm doing an ESL game, I must admit, every now and again, I'll just check the numbers just to make sure that there's a large amount of people watching. Am I doing it right? Are people enjoying it? And I mean, I haven't really gone wrong. I haven't had any negative responses. I haven't had, many people send me hate through DMs or whatever saying I do a terrible job. So clearly I'm doing something right. But yeah, I would say never try and pay attention to the numbers. It's a bad thing. And I still do it. And I still, hate myself for doing it because it really isn't a good thing to be doing.
But I mean, you can never win when you do that as well. Like when you focus on the numbers, you can never win. You can never be satisfied. But because then if you get like a new goal, let's say you hit 10,000 people watching your stream. Okay, cool. Then what now? Like what happens next? Like, okay, so you get 20k. Cool. So now it's bad if you get 10k. Like what? You cannot like keep improving in that sense, because the matches are different and there's so many variables in that sense. Another thing that I really wanted to know about was like when we talk so much about numbers, right? Can't your focus really just be on you feeling like you've improved yourself in your craft, instead of like focusing on all the external stuff? Focus on the internal stuff that you can change and that you can do better, and then hopefully, or you can maybe expect as well, that more people will tune in, more people will hire you, basically because you focus on your internal stuff. You focus on what can I do better, instead of saying, why isn't that guy watching me? Why isn't there 10,000 people on this stream?
Yeah, I completely agree. That is the mentality to have, right? Is that when you sit down and you have a really good game, then you should sit back and watch it and realize what you did right. And if you had a bad game, then you should sit down and watch it and realize what you did wrong. If you know you've had a bad game, the number doesn't matter, because you know you can improve on the things that you did bad in. And if you had a really good game and the numbers increase, then obviously that's a good thing and everyone's going to be happy. But as you said, down to the bare bones, if you're not already the best, then you've got to work to be the best. And to work to be the best, you have to put hours in, and you have to learn, and you have to improve. And whether that's, thinking of improving vocabulary to make sure you're not repeating words, or, you're not saying the same things over and over, or you want to sound different and you want to sound, it sounds a bit better when you use the more complex words and whatever. It's down to the little things that make the biggest difference, right? And your presentability, your tone, the way you deliver certain things or certain rounds, it's all things that you can work on and improve on. And I could tell you the game that I had yesterday, there was a round in which there was like some amazing 3K, and it was actually it was a 1v2, and the bomb plant got denied with like 8 seconds to go, but I didn't hype it up as much as I should have, and I watched, and I remember exactly in the moment seeing that kill, and the things that came out of my mouth, in my head, I was like, oh shoot, man, I wish I'd have done better with that. And so I watched it back and I learned, okay, I've just got to pay attention a little bit more to the map. I've got to look at the dots and see where people are going, look at the time, what utility do we have, where's the CT, and it's all the little things that you've got to pay attention to in a round. And had I have paid a little more attention to the mini-map, or had I have paid a little bit more attention to the time, I would have delivered that round in a completely different way, and it would have been so much more hype than it was, and it probably would have been a pretty cool thing for people to watch at home. So I completely agree. Working on your own craft is the most important thing. Watching back your demos and getting feedback from others is probably the most beneficial thing you can have.
Yeah, okay, so let's talk a bit about improvement, because you have you have people, you get a bunch of feedback when you cast from different people. What you normally get feedback on is the negative stuff, like what did you do bad? But when you look at your own VODs as well, like, do you only look at what's bad, or do you try and reinforce and check, okay, well, this one was actually pretty good. I can do that again, or this point was excellent, or like instead of always focusing on the negative and the potentials of you to become better, but actually also reinforce the positive and the good things that you do, to like still do those things, but also like get the bad things in focus and improve them, but also keep doing the good things that you do. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So I agree. I think that you should always keep a healthy balance between what you do right and what you do wrong. If there's a round that you delivered that was super clean and it sounded amazing to listen to, and do you know what? It was a super hype moment. Then, man, you've got to run away with that one, and you've got to realize that you did really well. But as you said, for me personally, I will focus on the negatives a lot more, on the things I do bad.
It's actually human nature, I think, too.
yeah, of course, always is. But you want to make sure that you remove the bad things in your broadcast and don't pat yourself on the back too much for the good things that you do. Because if you do that, then you're never going to see away from the negatives. And so, yeah, okay, sure, it's a normal human thing to do, is to look at the mistakes and go, oh, damn, I wish I'd done better. Kind of like a test, right? Like an exam. You can appreciate when you do something right, and the satisfaction when something right does happen. It exists here. But yeah, I will always focus on the negatives more than the positives, and that's simply just because I want to, improve my craft to make sure my craft is consistently good, rather than have the peaks and the troughs that maybe the broadcast would have if I weren't to watch back and work on the bad bits so much.
Okay, but like when I, for example, coach players, what I tell them, let's compare players and casting, because there's something you can compare here. So when I coach players, I tell them, okay, well, you have, let's say, these 3 points that you have to focus on. to improve your play. Okay, well, what if, and I've seen this a lot, right? So they improve these 3 points, but then suddenly they are not good at one of the things they were really good at before. Suddenly that's not a specialty. Suddenly that's not a thing they are really good at anymore, because they have had so much focus on the negative things that they needed to improve on, they forgot to do what they were good at and be consistently good at that, instead of focusing on, always remember, you can still, whatever you're good at, you still need to be good at that, but you also need to focus on what you're bad at to improve that, to increase your overall floor of the performance that you make, to increase your consistency. So that's what I tell to players. But like, isn't that also an angle that you can do in casting as well? Because now you said a lot about focusing on the negatives, but again, like, the positives really are valuable as well, right?
Yeah, I completely agree. I'm so for that. I think that when you watch a game back, absolutely, it's always good to pick out the negatives and go, oh man, I wish I improved on this, and I wish I'd have crafted this sentence a little bit better, or whatever it may be, because every word counts on a broadcast, right? And so you've got to keep that in mind. But you're dead right, is that when you do something good, you should always give yourself that recognition. And it's exactly the same as playing, right? Is that when you have a really good round, and let's say we're on like nuke ramp and you kill 3 people and get away, like, you've got to really applaud that, and your teammates will hype you up and be like, yes, that's really good. Like, that was a positive round. It's very similar in casting, but you don't really have like your teammate or your duo, in fact, to be like, to give you that pat on the back. That's up to you to pick that up and go, do you know what? That was a really good round from us as a duo, or from me personally. I'm happy with that. Let's like take a mental note how that happened, what I said. Like, let's see if I can apply that in a different game or a different scenario. So yeah, I completely agree. I think focusing on the positives is just as important as focusing on the negatives, but focusing on the negatives will improve your broadcast more than focusing on the positives, if that makes sense to you, right?
Yeah. But again, the point isn't to have only focus on one thing, but have like a duality of focus where, but you have to value them like almost equally, because you can easily forget the good things that you do. So that was like the point I tried to make.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think it's something that you need to do, is that bringing yourself down will only like harm yourself in the long run. So make sure you recognize the good as well. Absolutely, it's something that you should do. When something sounds good, like it's happened a few times a game, where I'll say something and it feels like it falls into place, and I've like just constructed like the world's best round effectively. I will recognize in the moment and go, do you know what, that was damn good. Like I'm happy with that. So yeah, in the moment when you've done something amazing, like you'll automatically know. That's why maybe I'm focusing on the negatives so much when you watch the game back, because in that exact moment when you finally say your last word and you just sit there in awe of what's just happened, or in shock, or whatever the emotion is. At the end of the day, you're very happy already about that. Like, you will know as the words come out, like, oh my god, like that was good from me. Like, I'm happy, that's a positive. And that can have a good run. I remember doing the Vitality Skade game on Overpass, and for me and Neo, who's my duo, everything just fell into place. Like, honestly, I even remember messaging him mid-game, like, we're on fire. Like, this is probably one of the best series like we've done ever together. And it was our biggest probably as well. Having Vitality in was a huge plus. So
yeah.
we knew that listening back to that game, we were only going to pick up the negatives, because for the 80% of the cast that we did that was good, we knew in the heat of the moment, like, we were so happy with how we delivered it and how well we did. So yeah, we probably focus on the negatives a lot more than the positives during the VOD reviews and sitting down and watching the games. But that's just because I feel like for us, we already know where the positives are when we say the words we say live.
Yeah, okay, great. But also, it's just a general point, right? Another thing that's really important that people don't really think about, and there's one word to describe this as well for improving yourself: patience. Because every single person who is working in some kind of performance field, they want to perform at their very best and be an all-star level player tomorrow. And that is not feasible. That is not realistic. So how do you work with your patience, like with your improvement? Like, do you take it like you have like these 18 different steps of, okay, these are all the points that I need to do better, and then you take it one at a time? Or you say, okay, I have all these 18 steps, I want to make them all work tomorrow, so I try and fix everything, And that's where, again, the problem becomes that you forget what you're good at when you do like that sense, like in that method, because that's what I've realized, at least through my experience. But like, how important do you believe patience is for improvement in as a caster?
I think it's quite important, right? If you look at some of the world's best casters, I think for me, I was really fortunate from the moment I started my work. So I'm going to check my Liquipedia to give you an exact time frame.
Yeah, sure.
But from my first ever event as a caster to my first ever ESL broadcast was incredibly quick. So I had my first ever event on the 10th of November. So, or no, sorry, it would be the 11th of October. And the first ESL broadcast I'd actually done to do anything with ESL would have been I feel like I've done, surely, is it ordered by date? It's not, that was a problem. I was wondering, I was like, they're not in order, but if you wanna take it from the 11th of October to my first ever event, it was probably 8 months, right?
Yeah.
And is an extremely quick time. If you head into the casting industry and think you're going to be casting Cologne in a year, then you've got another thing coming for you, right? It's not as easy. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump to the ESL big gigs. It's actually working on your craft. And so if you're not patient, then you're never going to make it. And if you want to take it on that level and say, okay, I want to cast, I want to be in the cathedral of Counter-Strike and I want to be casting the grand finals, then you've got to make sure that what you do leading up to that, every single broadcast you do, you improve on. And so if you want to take it to the minuscule, the round by round, the word by word, then focus on, and as I said, what I do when I'm out of game and I listen to VODs is I'd always listen to the words that I say too much, and I'll always go back to a thesaurus or to find some similar words and go, I've got to start saying this word more. I've got to stop saying this word so much. And building that up and creating a wide vocabulary is one of the many things you have to do in the building blocks. And working on your vocabulary is never going to be done overnight. And it's always going to be something that you go back to, you listen to yourself and you're like, I keep saying this word, I keep saying that word, I keep saying this word. And you've got to basically think about it and go, okay, I've got to sit down, I've got to figure out what words I've got to say. And that's going to take a while, and then you're going to want to apply them, and you want to listen back, and it's all about finding the great from the good, right? Because you can't settle for being good. You have to settle for great. And so for me, yeah, I completely agree. It takes months, years, in fact, to master the craft. I would say I'm still learning every day. I'm still sitting down, whether I watch a Blast stream, whether I watch an ESL stream, whether I watch, even if it's just another tier 2 caster and, they've been in the scene less time than me and have less experience or whatever, they're going to do something differently that maybe I'll like. And so what's the point of not having the stream on, listen to the audio and go, oh, I like what that person said? Because again, it only helps everyone. If you listen to each other and keep things as competitive as it is, you've got to work on it, and it takes time. As the whole question suggests, right, is that it isn't something that happens overnight. You've really got to think about it, and you've really got to consistently keep going for a very, very long time if you want to reach the top. And a perfect example like that I would say is Machine, right? Yeah. Okay, sure, Machine is in a pretty fortunate position where the tier 2 scene for him wasn't as competitive, but you think he started in 2015 and it's now 2022. Sure, he's casting the major and he's casted the back-to-back majors. But, his first ever event in terms of the date was 2015, and it was ESL 1 Katowice, right? And from that moment to now, he's transitioned from a desk host to a commentator. And you think how long that is going to take him, and that has taken him to transition from a hosting role to a commentary role. I mean, sure, some of the skills transfer, but even if you want to say that, how long did it take for him to master his craft? That is years of work in the making. And so, as you said, it isn't day and night. You've really got to grind.
Yeah, great. Yeah, exactly. And that's basically the point as well. But also, like, you have to be patient when it comes to your own improvement. Whereas, yeah, okay, you might have all of these ambitions, right? But you have to focus on the fundamentals, focus on what you can do better. And as long as you always improve on yourself, I believe that with the right connections, it should come naturally. But also, when the point that you said about tier 2 casters, like something that people don't really think about is whenever you watch a stream, that is basically you doing some kind of prep work or getting some kind of inspiration to add to your own casts. And those people who don't like take it look at it as a way for you to improve yourself when you watch streams, even when it is for entertainment, like you're doing something wrong because you're missing out on something that you can do that is so easy to improve upon, or even just get inspiration from. Take something from those podcasts and apply it to your own, that you're basically missing out because it's actually doing work, even though it doesn't really feel like work, unless you like take notes, right?
Sure. I think that when you always do a broadcast, when you do this, when you do that, when you're, out and about basically learning, is that every time you watch a stream, and for me personally, a little bit of a cheat that I would have and that I would recommend to everyone that's watching that wants to cast, is I will go back to demos that are 3-4 years old and just listen, and how they construct certain things, how they do this, how they do that, everything. It all adds up so much. And so I think for people that want to improve and people that want to learn, it's super important to know that this is, as we said in our previous point, this is something that takes forever to get good at, right? And so it boils down to even the littlest of things. Even if you watched 5 hours of Counter-Strike and you learned like 3 things from those 5 hours that you watched a stream, those are the most important things that you're going to learn, because if you've watched that much and you've extrapolated such like little information, the bits that you have just will only improve your cast. And so whether you learn 100 things in an hour or 10 things in an hour, I think it's super important for people to just sit down, watch a stream, even if it is, a stream that was happening years ago, or if it's a stream that happened yesterday. For me, that is like the most important thing, for me at least. It's the thing I learn most from.
Yeah, but also another thing is you get like these points, right? Let's say you get these 3 points from doing 5 hours, right? Okay, you might know the points, but you haven't implemented them yet. So you don't know how hard it is to implement. You don't know how difficult it is for you to actually take these points that you learned, apply it to your own craft, and then make it your own. That's another key point, because if you don't make it your own, you just sound like the other guys. And then, like, what's the point of you being there if you start sounding like other casters, right?
Yeah, and again, that boils down to what you were saying earlier, in that we always do things to learn, right?
Yeah.
And we'll always take time, and it takes forever to be good or great at something. Is okay, sure, you can be consistently good, but these changes don't happen overnight. And so for me personally, I think that when we actually watch a broadcast and when you sit down and you want to improve, it's going to take a lot of time for you to recognize, do I want to be saying this in a broadcast? If so, then it's going to take time to refine when to say it in a broadcast. And sometimes it won't even be brought up in a broadcast, right? It's like, I want to be doing this, I want to be doing that. Over time, you've got to learn a little bit more, right? And you've got to take time in recognizing what's good and what's not. So yeah, I agree. I think if you really want to chalk it down to something, even if you do learn something, as you said, it takes forever to know when it's good to implement it and when it's not, just because sometimes it might not work, and sometimes you might not even get to see if it works.
Yeah, exactly. But just also another point that I wanted to make is just because, like, when you talk about watching other streams and improving from those, right? It's the same with almost every single craft that you do that involves performance. So let's say players, well, they watch demos. Let's say an interviewer. Let's say me. Okay, well, what do I do to improve my interviews? Well, I look at other interviews. And it might even be something as like out of touch and not relevant to esports at all, like news, like interviews and news. And then you see, okay, well, what are they trying to get out of these points that they are making, right? Or even you take sports and like no matter what kind of entertainment product that you take in, there's always an element of performance in it, and you can always extract something from that performance element and apply it to your own craft. So yeah, that's just another point I wanted to make. So do you want to add something to it, or?
No, no,
No,
yeah,
okay.
that's exactly how I'd say it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So another thing that I really wanted to talk to you about is because you have been a caster, and it was one of your first orgs, and it was a Danish team called Jyderup.
Yes.
And a funny story about Jyderup is I was actually a writer and later a coach for Jyderup while you were casting them. So talk me a bit through, like, how was it, coming in and suddenly casting a Danish team, and it was one of your first gigs as well. So please talk me through, like, how was your experience with Europe?
Yeah, it was really positive. I think that the people, obviously it's esports if you can't get a better deal, so it's always going to be tough, especially when you're starting to value yourself. And I would say it's probably one of the cheaper events that I've done in my life for them. But that's just me trying to find my footing and find how much I think I'm worth. But besides that, it was cool. I've always had a soft spot for Danish Counter-Strike, just because it's always been the best, it seems. Recent times, maybe CIS Counter-Strike is taking over, with Astralis obviously not being Astralis. But we had years of terror, right, where the Danes just ran through everyone. And so, starting there and seeing some more local, fresher talent for me was a huge plus. And so I was just, gave it a go, had a bit of a laugh. And I mean, it was the ESEA Open, right? You're never going to see some world-class Counter-Strike there. But again, there's no real opinion on the Counter-Strike that they played. It was just, for me, expanding my portfolio, learning about players. And obviously, in this case, it's probably like the best thing I've ever done, because now we see one of the players that I casted in Open is now playing Pro League,
Yeah.
So it's like it's a big one for me.
Yeah, exactly. But one thing that's super interesting about that team that you casted back then as well is, so one of them is in Pro League, right? The other two is in the biggest Danish league called Power League, and in that league, right, they are like one of like those two are like the two of the hottest talents as well in the Danish league, of like that original Europe lineup that you casted back then. So it's actually quite funny and quite interesting how talent can improve over time, right? Another thing that like about Europe, like was this like your first time researching players, or getting to know like teams and working with an organization as a caster?
I think for me, it was the first time I actually had to sit down and learn the players, because beforehand I was only used to UK players. And so for me, I'm basically a walking UK database, a lot like a lot of the other casters that are UK bred, because we have UK LANs that we can attend to. We have the online events now with the circuits that we have involved, and whatever it may be. It was the first time I'd actually worked for a Danish specific league, right? I'm pretty happy to say that I'm it worked as the best possible case with Stair playing in Sprout, obviously the reference that I made earlier. But yeah, it's always fun to learn about new people. I think when you look at that team, right, I think it was obviously Stair is the biggest prospect. Prince, the AWPer, used to play in ESEA main for a team that I co-owned at one point as well.
Okay.
So that kind of came full circle, but it wasn't a long co-ownership. It was just a short stint where I wanted to help out with some UK org. And then obviously I think we had Pelly, who was actually an insane rifler, but I don't know where he is right now. And the other guys as well, they're sitting around ESEA main, so it's nice to see the progression that everyone's had, and the knowledge isn't gone, because most of the time I'm looking at main advanced level to see the next big thing where I can, point my finger to on a broadcast and go, do you know what? That person, especially in like the tier 2 talk that I have, like, yeah, I can say, oh, that unknown entity, actually, do you know what? He's damn good at the game. Like, he could be the next big thing. And so, yeah, it's really nice to see the guys still playing and whatnot. It's weird because the early information I learned about them still applies now, right? They're all very young players. They're all still like up and comers. They're still, finding their feet in Counter-Strike, and that to me is really cool to see. And so the knowledge that I have of them never leaves, and I guess the early dig that I did on them has paid off quite nicely.
But then again, that also shows like the research that you do does not like it never becomes invalidated. It's always valuable at some point, at some time, and you will always have it ready to just throw it out, right? So what I wanted to ask you about was like, you like, have you gotten a bit more interested in like the Danish scenes, or maybe the CIS, or the like some local scene from some other countries, since you've both like worked on tier 2 a lot. You've worked in specifically for Jyderup, you've been in the UK scene for a very long time. So is there like, I don't know, a Swedish scene maybe you'll find super interesting, or like is there something that really have spoken to you as how they play Counter-Strike, and some players you really find, oh my god, these are either the next big things or really interesting to follow their journey on?
I think the bias definitely comes in for the UK scene, just because it always is, right?
Yeah.
When you're supporting a country, then it's obviously always going to be your home. And I could easily point to Cypher, Kai. He's a really good friend of mine outside the game, but he's honestly probably the best rifler we have in the UK right now. I would say he is definitely one of the next up and comers outside of your Alex and your Messi, right? So
yeah.
I'm very happy to see how he's played. But to a more European level, but country by country basis, I don't know. It's hard to say, right? Because I think I look at every single division when it comes to ESEA, probably like your main, your advanced, your MDL, or rather your ESL Challenger League. And I will try and look and go, oh, like what's going on? Who's the next big thing? Who am I looking for next season? And I've recently stumbled across the 0-0 prospects guys. They are looking unbelievable right now. ReTr00, I had the pleasure of working with when I coached for Royals back in the day. He is, again, a really, really solid player. They're currently 3-0 in advanced. And when I talk about them, I will always say, do you know what? Like, these guys are giving them a good, give every team a good run for their money. The Bad News Eagles guys, I guess you can't really say I talk about them on a country by country basis, because they are the only team in the Albanian/Kosovo region that make it to a fairly high level. But again, I'm loving the Counter-Strike that they play and the passion that they have for it. And so there's definitely players like little teams and things like that I'm always keeping an eye on, but it's hard to say one player that I'm looking out for. So yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, I do enjoy it.
Yeah, I just wanted to test your database of knowledge of the tier 2.
Yeah.
And
I feel that.
Yeah. So another thing that we also have in common, actually, I showed this to you before the show, but I have been a coach for a Danish esports organization called Ignite Esports, and right now you are coaching the UK team called Ignite Esports. So please enlighten me, tell me a bit about Ignite Esports and why you would become a coach as well as a caster.
Yeah, so I think for me personally, I've always said if I can have an opportunity to play Counter-Strike or be on the server and win events, then I will. That's the whole point how I got into gaming. It's the whole point why I started playing Counter-Strike in the first place. And that's not saying that I'm giving up casting and I'm just going to run into coaching full time. I think a perfect example is Alan Hender. He's a caster/analyst. He's on the No Majors Club desk, the Richard Lewis PGL stream, right? But he's more notable for doing what feels like all of the ESL events now as an analyst, and he's got a really good insight for the game. But he's also the coach of Endpoint, which a lot of people probably won't know. So actually, when you look at it and when you realize the success that he's had on an individual basis as an analyst, okay, sure, it's really promising. But Endpoint made the RMR. Endpoint have got very solid building blocks to bring up a decent tier 2 team. And why can't I be doing the same where I'm in the server and I'm watching 5 friends of mine who are teammates kill everyone and win events and win prize money? And, this isn't me trying to cash in a paycheck or anything like that. It's far from it. Like, I've told the lads straight up, like, I'm not here for a salary. I'm just here. If I'm free, I'm going to help you guys as much as I can. And I just want to be back on the server, and I've realized I'm terrible at Counter-Strike. I'm never going to be a pro player when it comes to actually playing the game, but at least if I'm, in the 6th slot and I'm a coach and I'm watching the guys and I'm giving them little anti-strats, little bits of info, things that I've picked up on while casting, which is absolutely probably what Alan did, what's not to say that I can't follow in the same footsteps, So that was at least the idea for me and the ambition, and obviously the Ignite guys I've known for a little while, so it just sort of all fit into place.
Yeah, funny note, I interviewed Alan after the Flashpoint 2, I think, event. So just a funny side note. Anyway, Yeah, like also this comes back to all the preparation that you do for all the teams. Suddenly you can use it in a different context than it is not only casting, and you don't even have to do extra work to be like the coach to give them insights on the opponent's teams, right?
Yeah, I think anti-stratting is a little difficult because I'm always watching the top 80 teams of the world, and the people we're playing right now are in ESEA main, which probably sit around top 200 in the world, top 250, whatever, right? So it's always going to be difficult to go, okay, I'm going to watch this game and then I'm going to apply it here in terms of anti-stratting someone. I know what pistols these guys are going to. It's never going to happen, right? It's like a 1 in a million. It feels like at this point in time, but actually, when I'm watching the pistols and when I'm dissecting, I don't know, like a G2 pistol round on Vertigo, and I'm dissecting, an anti-force buy from Cloud9 now, but Gambit at the time, and I'm like, oh, this is cool, this is a little bit gimmicky, like I'm enjoying what they're doing here and there. Why can't I share that knowledge with my teammates and go, do you know what? I think this is a good idea to run. Let me just talk it through, use a pause. I want you to do this. I want you to do this. I want you to do that. Let's come together, let's try and perform and put on a show. And, I can't say it's worked a lot of times. I can't say that I've done it a lot of, like, in a more frequent level, but I have a spreadsheet where I'm always going to be adding little gimmicky things where I record POVs and I'm saying, watch this POV, I want you to do this on a pistol, or I want you to try this on a full buy. And just, sharing little bits of information with my teammates. As you said, that all comes from my casting knowledge, and that also transfers directly, which is another reason why I wanted to do it, because if I've got all this knowledge, at least let me share it with someone. And I thought it was quite neat when I start with the UK scene that I'm going to try and help the UK scene as much as possible.
Yeah, exactly. But something that's super interesting about like the UK scene is, you mentioned it yourself, you have Alex, you have Messi, you have quite a lot of players, but it's not really, you have like the orgs and like the funding, it seems like, but you don't really have like, sorry UK people, you don't really have the talent to be like tier 1 or even tier 2 at some, like at most points, right? But then let's take a comparison to Denmark, because I know that scene. So in Denmark you have Astralis, yeah, sure, whatever, you have Heroic, fine, okay, that's like 10 players, right? Then you have Flames, Copenhagen Flames, who are quite good as well right now. Then you have Los Reyes, the guys who's won, like they are super good as well, and they play frequently in HLTV. Then you have the Atlantic guys, and you have like Tricked, and you have Masonic. Like that's suddenly right.
You have like Ecstatic, Astralis,
Ecstatic,
Talon.
yeah, exactly. So that's 9. That's 9 teams, right? But Los Reyes right now don't have an org, and the only teams that are full time right now is Astralis, Talent, and Tricked Esports. And you don't have like the funding in Denmark to keep them as a full time, right? But in the UK, you have like the opportunities and the resources to have people go full time, but you're not as good at the game. So why do you think that the UK people are not as good at the game? Because it's just like, it's not even like an hour plane ride from each other like Denmark and UK, but apparently there is some reason like you're not as talented, or no, not talented, but you're at least not playing as well on the server as let's say the Danish scene.
I think it's really difficult, actually. I would argue that at some points the UK is actually quite underfunded. Obviously, we have Endpoint, which is the big UK org, right? And everyone knows Endpoint. They've publicly announced they've had 7-figure deals and multi-year contracts with sponsors and whatever. But we have Into the Breach, another very solid team of players. And then the next best team in the UK, if you want to exclude Endpoint, Into the Breach is number 1, and then we have Fanbit number 2, which is unorged, right? And these guys have always said they are willing to go full time. They're 72nd in the world, which I think is super respectable, right? To get top 70 in the world is extremely difficult, and these guys have been on a roller coaster, but they're proving that they can absolutely do it, right? And so with this whole Champions of Champions tour announced, I can only hope that they get invited and they start to actually prove themselves on a more manageable level. But the guys themselves, they don't have the money. I think 2 or 3 of them are in university full time, so they're only playing Counter-Strike outside of uni hours. The other 2 obviously have to work because they don't get money because they're not in an org, right? And so for me, Fanbit always will have a special place in my heart, and I think a lot of other teams are going to go down a similar route. We have Black Hand. I'm not sure what they're up to right now in terms of their situation. Eco, another team that, you know, can actually put up some decent stats. They've made a couple of roster changes. So the UK scene from an orgs perspective is not great. We don't have a lot of teams that can put us into full-time scenarios, which I think would actually help us massively. But on a more individual level, if I'm honest with you, I think that esports is not as big at schools and things like that as it is in Denmark, right?
Yeah.
And obviously, it's only come into recent years that obviously I think your prime minister, right, is starting to condone a lot more with esports, and you know, there's like clubs and things like that. For us in the UK, there's no outlet to that in public or private schools. The only opportunity you get is past 18, where you can take an esports degree, but that isn't for playing. That's to like manage tournaments and whatever, and I don't agree with that whatsoever. So I won't comment on that too much. But the point being is, when you're in secondary school, when you're a teenager, and when if you're invested in games, it's where you're most invested. We don't have the outlet. We don't have someone or a body or, you know, a government to go, do you know what? Esports actually is a thing that people make a living off. And so for me personally, I think we have the talent, but we're catching it way too late. And I think we're catching them not past their prime, but we're not giving them the building blocks when they're building up to their prime to then exceed and blossom into tier 1. Because sure, we have Alex and Mezzi, right? And I'm not going to take that away. We've got Smooya, we've got Thomas as well, who I would argue are tier 1 players if we put them in the right places. Past that, though, we don't have anyone. And we don't have a lot of younger talent. I mean, as I said earlier, Cypher, he's 19. Dobbo as well is 18. So we have some very young players on Into the Breach. But the problem is, that is an example of a couple of players that have made it out. But there are many, many people, in my opinion, that could find themselves in, you know, in an endpoint or in an Into the Breach or in a very respectable full-time, if not part-time, leading on to full-time, if we're just to give the exposure and the opportunity to people at a younger age. I think that is the main problem for us.
Okay, do you know how the Danish, like how it works in Denmark? Because then I'll explain it to you real quick.
I think you have like, isn't there like clubs and stuff like that people have in schools that you can go to?
Yeah, okay, so in primary school, or like up until you are, 14, 15, right? And you finish 9th grade, that's basically just, you know, school, right? Then you have a year off between high school and this primary school called efterskole. And it's basically you take to a school, you live there for a year. Some of these schools have esports as one of the main courses on this. And then you have great, like, either former players or current players in some cases who are full-time there educating the players. So in one way, you are teaching them from when they are 14, 15 years old how to play Counter-Strike in like the Danish system. Secondly, you scout talent. You see great talent this way, because Yabi, for example, in Copenhagen Flames, he was found on an efterskole and then brought up into the bigger talents, and then played with Haste and Larsen in Sigma, and then suddenly got up, you know, to Copenhagen Flames. So that, like, he's just one example of it. So you explore and find the talent at a very early age, right? Stair, for example, he's like 17, maybe just turned 18, right? And he's gotten an MVP performance, and like in the beginning of 2020, he was playing in ESEA Open, right? So
yeah,
and then he had one 3-month season, like one ESEA season with Barry, and then he got to Sprout. Basically, that's his story, right? So you find all these talents at a young age. You get you educate them into how to play the Danish CS, but you also have so much spare time that you can improve your abilities, and you have so much spare time to become a good player, and you're always incentivized to become better if you want to go down both the like whatever esports route you want to take, and then when you are finished with high school, you have the opportunity to go full time, just live with your parents and play all day, every day, right? Without being concerned of taking an education. It's really normal to go like a couple of years without going to uni, for example, if you want to try and chase the dream. And then you can, so like there's a lot of factors: early like development, early scouting, early coaching, onto like the bigger tier 1, tier 2, where they get scouted up and found. basically.
We don't have any of that in the UK.
No.
So I think that's our problem. And I love that you guys have that. I must admit, I'm jealous beyond belief that you have that, because we have none of it. We absolutely have none of it. And the year that you get outside of school, we would never be allowed to here in the UK. And even if we were, I don't think that the government or anything like that has access to the knowledge that maybe Denmark does, or in fact some of the people in the UK do, but we don't get the opportunity to share that. And so for me, I don't think people will always get laughed at in the UK for playing esports for quite some time. People can play games, but they don't understand esports. And I remember when I started my career, some of my friends would laugh at me and go like, oh, you're an idiot, like you can't make money watching games or whatever. I mean, the position that I am now would say otherwise, right? But but actually when you think about it, we don't have much support from a government body, or a lot of people that aren't in tune with esports won't understand that there is a lot of money to be made, and there's a big market and a big opportunity for people. So I think that's our main problem, right, in the UK here. And you know, coming on to the whole like young age thing, I mean, admittedly, the coaching situation for me, my players are older than me. All of them are older than me.
Oh yeah.
But
Okay.
but they're still on their way to their prime. If you look at data, if you look at the CS pros where they are, your prime is 28, 29. And so even if you're starting to play FPSs when you're 19, like when you're my age and you want to start playing, if you can find a groove and if you can really commit yourself to trying to learn, then no saying no to being able to just pick up the pace, find yourself, you know, in a tier 2 team and really start to try and grind and put yourself in a better position. There's no denying that if I was to start today, even though I won't because I've already tried and failed, if I was naturally good at FPSs and, you know, aiming, and I committed to myself to a strict routine schedule to improve, we can probably find some really, really good talent out there. And it's a shame that we don't have the scouting ability, which is I guess, you know, what Denmark has over the UK, and that's why I would say predominantly you guys, you know, have so many younger players that up and come, and obviously you look towards Copenhagen Flames as a really good example of that with such young guns, and even then with Stare on Sprout, there's, you know, young people getting the big opportunities. But for the UK, we don't know which young people to give the opportunities to because the exposure isn't there.
Okay, so one thing I was thinking of, could Endpoint, they are like the big guns in UK, right? So
sure,
couldn't they, like, let's say, get a room, maybe a net cafe or something, maybe find, I don't know, Rattlesnake, give him some money, and then he can come in and then he can teach, let's say, 10 young players, and then through that he can do that every single day of the week, and then have like 5 different teams maybe where he teaches them for like 2 or 3 hours, maybe several times a day as well. And then you actually broaden out, both you give them the right education of it, you scout out the talent, and then you actually have a better idea of who you should actually try and scout and give the opportunity to when it comes later on. And then maybe that could be an Endpoint Academy team, and then the best players from the tutoring stuff could become like a part of Endpoint Academy. And then maybe you have to pay like X amount of money to be a part of and get this coaching, right? So maybe the Rattlesnake's salary gets paid for himself just by attendees. Like, so isn't there some kind of like some kind of way that you can make it, like, make the opportunity yourself? Like, you don't need a governing body to do it, right?
Maybe, but for me, I can't speak about what Endpoint should invest their money in.
No,
right?
no, but it's just like a hyperbole. Like,
yeah. I agree. I think that there is a realm in which that can happen, right? There is a definite realm in which we can look at younger players and maybe an org to step in and go, do you know what, we're going to look for the talent rather than the talent having to find themselves. I would love that, but yeah, I think in the real world scenario, it's not going to look likely. But in any case, if I was a millionaire and, you know, I had the money to, I would love to do that. I would absolutely love to, as you said, bring someone in, put them on like a yearly salary and go, do you know what, teach these players. I will give you the facilities. I want you to teach these players what to do, how to play Counter-Strike fundamentally. And I reckon that will help a lot of people. And it's a shame we don't, which is why I mentioned so much on the government, because they are the ones with the money, basically. No person in the UK in esports will invest, I feel like at least in the next year or so, into a UK program, but that's just because I don't think there's an opportunity. And if there is, then it's going to have to be out of school, because as it happens, the government don't enjoy esports as much as, you know, Scandinavia does as a whole. And so it's never going to be part of a school curriculum to play games, because to us playing games is having fun and, you know, not learning about things and whatever, which, you know, is what we see it currently is about. So it's a shame that it won't happen, but yeah, I just wish, and I do blame the government for it, that there is more exposure to esports, because then your idea of bringing someone in and building something up would be a lot easier, and actually it would work out a lot better, and I guess overall just be a lot more manageable and a lot more realistic for us as a country.
Yeah. Another thing that's super important that a lot of people don't think about at all is there is a difference between esports and gaming. There is a clear difference between the two terms, but they are being told in the same frame so often, even in Denmark as well, because they say, because I've taught some people who go on like high school, and then they had esports, and then I taught them, right? They just thought basically, okay, let's go up here, whoa, woohoo, we can play games for 2 hours now, and then we can leave. Well, no, that's not how it works, because you're being taught in esports. You're gonna learn about competitive video games. So you need to learn about how to improve as a player, how to speak to people, how to work as a group, how to improve yourself, how to reflect, how to argue, how to there's so many things that comes into this point of being competitive, because gaming, like how I define it and how it's I believe it should be defined, is gaming is like the casual fun play you do with your friends. Esports is the competitive and the drive to become the best that you can be, right?
Yeah.
So there are these even a lot of people just think that it's one and the same. So you could call it gaming and competitive video games, right? That would not make it as hard or easy to it wouldn't make it as easy to compare and think it's the same. But again, the name is esports now, right? But you need this competitive element to call it esports.
And I think that's the blurred line that a lot of people in the UK will have, is that a lot of people will just go, esports is just gaming. It's not. They're different things. Gaming is what you do with your friends. You play like Fortnite with your friends on your Xbox or something like that. That's gaming. And as you said, the difference between gaming and esports is that you take it seriously. And at the end of the day, esports, I wouldn't say is, you're not an athlete. You aren't. Well, I would say at some points you are, in terms of physically, but you've got to train like an athlete, right? You devote a lot of time into practice and improvement and managing certain skills, and that's the difference. People won't understand that in the UK, and it's a shame. And I reckon the next generation, if I have a child, I reckon that generation of people will understand gaming a heck of a lot more than they do right now. But the problem is, at this very moment, if I was to ask someone on the street, what's the difference between gaming and esports, they'll say it's the exact same thing. And I guess that's another problem we have here, is that people don't get that difference, I feel like.
Yeah. Okay. Another thing, just to go back to the other, to the solution problem, or to the solution, don't you think there is enough support in the UK to maybe facilitate, to have a LAN cafe where you can tutor people, that they will, let's say, pay, I don't know, £5 a month, now £10 a month, and then they can come in and be there for or you can do it like football, you pay, I have no idea, X amount of money, then you can go there for half a year, let's say a season, and then you get taught maybe twice a week in esports. Do you think the support would be there? Because if the support would be there, you would have an additional revenue stream for an org that facilitates something like this, and then they would actually earn money and give them more exposure, and then maybe they could get a sponsor to be put onto this program, and then say, okay, well, the sponsor pays for it, okay, then we earn a bunch of money, and then you have you get the scouting element, you get the fundamentals element, and you also help grow the grassroots of the scene.
The problem is, in my area at least, there's no gaming cafes. There's nothing to do with that. and I think it's just educating the public about it, which is a little bit of a problem. But the closest one to me, and I've just Googled it, right, is in London, which for me is going to be if I take the directions there, so if I was to leave this very moment, bearing in mind this is a Saturday afternoon, it's going to take me an hour and 20 minutes to drive to a gaming cafe, right?
Oh, damn, yeah.
And so there's nothing local for me, and there's not local gaming cafes in the UK as a whole. There's in London, in our capital, but nothing else really.
Okay.
And I think that's a big shame, because we can LAN. Like, I've invited my friends around and we've all played on the PCs here and we've all had a good time. But again, that isn't esports, that's gaming. And so we're already crossing that line that we don't want to cross. And then, you know, it's difficult. It's really difficult, because I don't think gaming cafes are as local or as big as what they should be, or anything like that. Obviously, it's easy to say because I'm so involved with esports and I know a lot about it, or at least a lot more than what a normal person from the UK would. But yeah, there's not a lot of access to the general public when it comes to this either, which I think boils down to, again, just telling people how it is.
But do you think like there's enough support for it to work? Like, that's like the fundamental thing, because like then the solution wouldn't even work if there's not support for it, right?
Yeah, I think there is. I think there's every realm in which someone can sit down and and for the younger generation, especially for the people that are in secondary school right now, you know, a few years below me, if you were to ask them what is esports, they will tell you that it's gaming, but professional. Like, you make money gaming. I know probably not the right definition to be using, but at least it isn't.
They get the point. Yeah,
exactly. They know the point. So I think the exposure is already there. The younger generation knows what esports is, but it's acting upon it and telling people that you can follow that dream and pursue that, because there's not much of it in the UK in terms of esports. So it's difficult. And as I said, the whole university thing offering esports degrees is, in my honest opinion, a waste of time completely.
Yep.
They don't do much to help you in a gaming career. They will help you in every other sense other than if you want to play the games, right? So for the majority of people that are into esports because they want to play, then that's not hitting the demographic, which is completely why I don't agree with it. So yeah, it's difficult. It's really, really difficult. And I think that there's every opportunity that in the next few years that we can make some big advancements, and whether that's me personally going out there and getting off my backside and campaigning, or if I'm just going to complain about it on Twitter all the time, you know, one of two things. At some point somewhere, I hope someone will step up, you know, just message, do something, put something out there and go, we want to improve esports. This is what we want to do. Help us. Because the government right now are not as clued up as maybe they should be.
We've tried to find solutions for the British scene. We have tried to compare the British and the Danish scene, right? Okay, fine. There are some problems, both places. Fine. Okay, you try and cover the tier 2 scene. You have your tier 2 talks. Can you please talk a bit about what is the motivation behind you trying to make a talk show, you hosting a talk show as well as why the tier 2 scene?
A lot of people will do stuff in the tier 1 scene. So myself and Dweg, we actually had a conversation about this at a LAN event, right? We played on the same team. I'll give the prop there that we went to Epic LAN, and we had an idea that we wanted to make a talk show and basically focus it on tier 2, because a lot of people will do analysis, and there's a lot of content stirred around the tier 1 scene. I mean, you look at the RMR and they've done little gimmicky things where they build a team, or they're asked as many questions in 60 seconds or whatever. But that's all focusing on like the tier 1 players, the better players. So why couldn't we create a talk show where we talk to the tier 2 players about the current stuff, about their past, about their future, about everything like that, and people get to know the up-and-coming talent that we have, the people that are, okay, sure, maybe not the best in the world right now, but there's every opportunity that we see them on a bigger stage at some point. And so for me, that was a big gap, and me and Dweg jumped at it sort of 50-50 on the fact he does a lot of the scouting of talent and organizing the topics and what we do, and I'll sit down and I'll produce and I'll write out the tweets and I'll do all the graphic design and whatnot. So we're quite 50-50 when it comes to the give and take, but we wanted to create a joint project on a talk show, basically to invite as many tier 2 players as possible on, and basically go, do you know what? Let's talk about your life of Counter-Strike, and let's talk about the current things that are going on in the Counter-Strike world, and basically just get some insight into their life and their gaming career, I guess.
Ah, okay, great. So yeah, that's a lot of points. Have you seen the success? Like, how do you measure the success? What is like the goal of your tier 2 talks, and like not even like not the point, but like what is it that you hope to get out of having this talk show?
I think for us, we just do it to let people know what's going on, right? We just open the talk and we just say, if anyone wants to ask any questions in Twitch chat, go for it. We create tweets on our Twitter account where we just go, if you want to ask a question, like pre-ask here, and we'll have a little talk about them on the show. And so it's to allow the people at home that want to know more about the players ask the questions, but for us also, our goal is just to bring knowledge to players that won't exactly get the recognition, or not just players. We've done casters as well. We're going to do analysts. We're going to try and hit the whole mark when it comes to the tier 2 scene. And that's because there's a lot more people in tier 2 than there is in tier 1. And so there's a lot of room for people to have a talk show with this player, or an interview with that player, or, you know, do something gimmicky with this person and this team, or whatever it may be. And that's just because me and Dweg have always cared about tier 2, and our end goal has never been, we want to hit 1 million subscribers, we want to be the biggest talk show on YouTube or whatever. We're just doing it to have fun, and we're doing it because we care about the tier 2 scene. I mean, sure, if we hit 10,000 subscribers by the end of the year, then that's awesome. You know, we'll be thankful for every person that subscribes. But for us, it isn't about the amount of views we get or the amount of subscribers that we get. We literally haven't even talked about, you know, where the money's going to go or whatever, if we even make money or get a sponsor or whatever. It's just, we're here to have fun, and we're here to just basically interview as many people as we can, give some exposure to the players or the casters or whoever, and benefit ourselves and everyone at home by seeing into the life of someone that plays Counter-Strike, or seeing into the life of someone that watches Counter-Strike.
All right. So, because it was a bit, I tried to get you to answer to it, because you told me earlier that you were ready to become a host, become an interviewer, become a lot of different things on a broadcast. Well, is this maybe a way for you to maybe improve your hosting capabilities as well?
Of course, especially interviewing, right? It's asking the concise questions. When you're doing hour or 2 hour long podcasts, it's very difficult for us to go, okay, time for us to do, I don't know, this or that, or, you know, I'm going to sit down and have a 2-minute interview with this person, because it's not the same. A 2 hour podcast and a 2-minute interview, the skills will correlate, but they're not the same format. You're not asking the lengthy questions. You're just asking quick, rapid fire. Let's hear about this. What do you think about this? So, yeah, it does help. But for me, it's never been. For me, I always offer myself as a role of a host or an interviewer or whatever, but I'll always take the casting opportunities over it. And that's the same with Dweg, is that we're both casters. At the end of the day, we both want to talk over the game of Counter-Strike rather than want to be on the desk and analyze the game or interview the players. And although we love doing the tier 2 talk, I'm not saying that we don't, we've always been casters. So it's very difficult for us to make that transition and leave everything that we built up behind us. But yeah, it definitely does help the skill like transfers, I guess, and fits quite nicely.
Yeah, because now suddenly you are a caster, you're a host, you're an interviewer, and you're a coach. So suddenly you have a lot of hats on, and you do a lot of different things. But suddenly, at some point, and in some way, in some scenarios, they all just fit together, and all the data and information you like play with, they all align. They all make it become something bigger, something greater, because every single facet gives you information that you can use in the other facets of those different roles and different hats that you have on. So it suddenly becomes something a lot bigger and a lot greater than yourself, if you can say it at some point, right? Or in some way, because it all comes up to the next level suddenly, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it all ties in, right? All
Yeah.
of these skills I picked up on just sort of merge into place. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, and I think they all fit into one another. Me doing my casting fits nicely into coaching, and me doing the coaching is really good because I get player insight, and with player insight, I can then do these interviews, and with the interviews, then obviously I can be a desk host and I can talk to the casters because I know what it's like being one of them. And so yeah, it's a nice circle. It all sort of like feeds into one another.
Yeah, exactly. Just comes full circle. So it just becomes something excellent, and that gives you so much experience in becoming like in coming up to the next level. So something I didn't get to ask you when we talked about your casting. Before you cast a match, let's say the Vitality versus Skate game, are you like getting nervous before your matches that you cast?
Sometimes, yeah. I always my first ESL broadcast, I remember I was shaking like a dog. I was proper like on nerves, like really nervous. And that's not because I didn't want to be there or whatever. I was so thankful for the opportunity, and I couldn't care less how little amount of people turned up. For me, it's a big stepping stone. And so for the Vitality Skate game especially, I remember saying to Neo, and our producer can hear us and whatever, I remember just saying to him, like, let's just go out and do what we do. Like, at the end of the day, we're going to have a banger of a broadcast. We always aim to be the best. Like, let's remember, just be ourselves and have a good time. And we did exactly that. So there's definitely nerves, but I like to now use it as energy to a broadcast, right? Is if I'm feeling nervous, then I know that this game means something. And if I know this game means something, then I've got to give it 100%. That's the given.
Yeah, so it's actually a good indicator of you giving your best performance. Like, even though, of course, you should do it every single time, but you know that when you feel nervous, there's something extra, like you have to put in it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's hard to say because although I don't get nervous at every game, it doesn't mean I'm not going to convert the energy and give 100%. I always give 100%. That's not what I'm trying to say. I'm just saying when I feel nerves, especially, I know the game means a lot to me in terms of my career or the teams that I'm watching or whatever it may be. And so, yeah, I'm sure I'm pretty on edge, but actually it's for the right reasons.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, so I did some questions. I asked Twitter for some questions about you. And,
sure.
We have a grimy ratter who asks you why you're such a long boy. Maybe can you give some context?
Okay, so I remember there was an image. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it to you and maybe people will have seen it as well. But I was on an Epic LAN stream and I was basically standing next to another caster in the UK scene. He's, I think, like 5'7", 5'8" maybe, and I'm 6'2", right? And so when I'm standing next to someone else, the height difference is massive. And not to mention, when we're standing up, the camera's angled up at us. And so we just look like there's a big difference. And so it was hilarious to see that. So I guess the reference is from that. Usually I tower over the people that I'm working with, which is a bit weird. But yeah, I guess that's where that question came from.
Yeah, okay. Well, there's another one. Why is the monster, what's that, Mixo Punch?
Yes, that's from K. Truman. I remember we were having a talk about, which monster's the good monster and which one's our favorite one, right?
Yeah.
So he probably asked that because I said my favorite one's the yellow one, the Doctor.
Yeah, I know it.
One, right? So, yeah, that's my favorite, but he likes the purple one more. And we had a big debate during a break between maps, saying like which one's the better one or whatever. But yeah, that was our go-to. To be fair, I think a lot more people would side with him because the Doctor isn't the best one to most. But I think it is the best. That's where that.
I'm actually siding with you here. So
yeah,
you have one supporter here.
We'll take it.
Yeah, mate. Okay, another thing. Are we gonna see? Oh, it's not from Twitter. This one. Are we gonna see Retro at a LAN soon? Are we gonna see him this year, maybe?
My fingers are crossed. So for those that maybe don't know, if you didn't see as well, Puffin, yesterday on HLTV there was an announcement for the Champions of Champions circuit, right? And between 2022 and 2024, there's $3.4 million in prize pools, of which there is there is 44 online series for 1.8 million, and there's 11 studio finals taking in 1.1 million total, which I can only guess is going to be 100k for each studio final. I would love to be in one of them, and I hope so. And that's the plan. At some point, I will get a call up somewhere. I've been close a couple of times with securing events, but it was COVID, and you know, we weren't sure if we were going to be able to. I would love to be in a LAN hall casting Counter-Strike, and I hope it happens soon. But for now, I can say for the events that I booked for, none of them are LAN, sadly.
Ah, sadly. Okay, so this is about the end of the interview. So I would like to ask you, like, if you have any final words, anything that you want to message to the entire crowd of 10 people who's gonna watch this.
Not more.
Yeah. Okay. Well, whoever, whatever message you have, the word is yours.
Thank you for having me. First of all, it's been a pleasure being here and having a chat. It's been really good fun. I would say to anyone that's watching for the reason that they want to get into casting, believe in yourself. That's the one thing that you can do, and one thing that will get you far in this industry is believing in yourself and working on your product. If you're not, and you're here to just have a listen, talk about nonsense, you know, that's what we've done for the last hour and a bit. Fair enough. I appreciate you all for watching, and as I said, Puffin, thank you very much for having me. It's been a pleasure, and yeah, I've enjoyed my time here.
Sick. Yeah, well, I enjoyed it as well. It's amazing. It became like 1 hour 40 minutes, so excellent work. Thank you for watching, everyone, and drop the sub if you want to watch more.
Subscribe.